Hi students, today we are going to deal about a topic that is infertility. So you have heard this term, that is infertility, and so today we will be discussing about in detail about the infertility and its management. So as you know, infertility it is a significant, important social and medical problem which is affecting the couples worldwide, and it refers to an inability to conceive after having regular unprotected sex. So the couples, they are having regular unprotected sex, but still they are not able to conceive. And if you see the incidence rate, globally it is 15 percentage, and many causes can be detected and treated, whereas in some cases the causes cannot be detected. So that types of infertility is known as unexplained infertility, which constitutes about 10 percentage of all cases. According to the Mayo Clinic in USA, 20 percentage of the cases of infertility are due to the problem in man, whereas 40 to 50 percentage cases are due to women. 30 percentage cases are due to problem in both men and women. And in the case of India, approximately 15 to 20 percentage of couples are infertile. Then we are moving on towards the definition of infertility. So as I said in the introduction, it is a failure to conceive within 1 or more years of regular unprotected coitus. So the partners, they are having regular unprotected coitus since 1 year or more, but still they are not able to conceive. That is known as infertility. That is the definition. So then the risk factors. So now the first we will be seeing the female risk factors. The risk factors are if the female, she had a history of cancer, or she is having irregular period, she is having abnormal menstruation, or any irregularities related to her menstruation. Smoking and drinking habits, history of STDs, that is sexually transmitted diseases. And the age is another factor, that is advancing age, that is about 35 years of age in females, and then obesity. So these all are the infertility risk factors in the case of females. Whereas in the male infertility, the risk factors are tight clothing. Okay, I think you know the tight clothing. So what happens as a scrotum is situated outside the body, so what happens due to the increased temperature outside the body, the due to tight clothing, the temperature will be increased, and it will lead to it will interfere with the production of sperm. Okay, so that can lead to infertility. Then drugs, some sorts of drugs, then alcoholism, smoking, and weight. So these are the male infertility risk factors. Now, in general, the risk factors in male and female, we will see. So, in male, alcoholism, then drugs, tobacco use, health problems, radiation and chemotherapy, age factors, and environmental factors like exposure to pesticides and lead. Whereas in female, age is a factor, stress, poor diet, poor nutrition, over athletic training, over or underweight, tobacco use, alcoholism, sexually transmitted diseases, and health problems. So these all are the risk factors, okay, in both the male and female. Now we'll see the causes. The most common causes in male fertility, it is a structural defect of the sperm, erectile dysfunction, and the improper mobility of the sperm, and then abnormal volume of the semen, and then obstruction of the genital tract that interfere with the sperm count. So that is the common causes in male infertility. Then the causes in men, in detail we will see. That is, the first one is low sperm count. So you know, the normal count is 20 million of sperm in 1 ml of semen. Okay, so that is a normal count. If it is less, that is less than 10 million, then it is termed as oligospermia. So you can see in this image, here it is a normal concentration or normal level of sperm. And here you can see there is less number of sperms in the semen, that is oligospermia. Okay. Now the absence of sperms, that is azoospermia. There is no sperm in the semen, that is azoospermia. So these two terms, oligospermia and azoospermia, is the causes for the infertility. Now moving forward, the same causes, the low sperm motility. You know, the sperm, they are motile, but in some cases sperm is not able to move normally. In normal cases, the sperm move forward, but here it is abnormal mobility. Okay, it is not able to swim. Then abnormal sperms, that is unusual shape of the sperm. It is difficult to, because of an abnormal shape, it that will interfere with the mobility, and it also interfere with the fertilization. Okay, and then this abnormal shape, you can see here the normal shape of the sperm, whereas these are the abnormal forms. So any sort of abnormality can lead to the infertility. And these other causes are any testicular infections, testicular cancer, and testicular surgery. Okay, then other causes are overheating testicles, ejaculation disorders. The one form is retrograde ejaculation. In that, the semen will be, the ejaculation will be done directly towards the bladder in that cases. Then varicocele, undescended testes, hypogonadism, the concentration of the testosterone, that is a male sex hormone, will be less. Then genetic abnormality, then mumps, hypospadiasis, and chlamydial infections. Okay. So these are the causes that can lead to male infertility. Next is female infertility, the causes of female infertility. The main causes are ovulation disorders, then the gland disorders, endocrine disorders, then any history of the surgery, then any cervical mucus problem, any structural issues like fibroids, polyps, or any myomas, endometriosis, pelvic inflammatory diseases, and due to the effect of some medicines or birth control pills, hormonal issues, poor nutrition, athletic overtraining, any stress, environmental factors, sickle cell disease, renal diseases, diabetes mellitus, kidney disease. So this can lead to female infertility. So there are n number of causes that can lead to female infertility. The main, that is ovulation problems and any previous history of surgeries or any diseases like tuberculosis or any renal lesions or environmental factors, hormonal issues. Okay. So now we will see in detail. The first one is ovulation disorders, that is related to the ovulation. What is ovulation? The ovulation is we know that every month from the alternate ovaries, one follicle will become matured and it will be ruptured into the peritoneal cavity. That normally happens, but due to some problem, due to the hormonal influences or due to some other factor, it will be disordered. So in that, premature ovarian failure, polycystic ovarian syndrome, hyperprolactinemia state, and poor egg quality. Egg is produced, but it is not qualitative. Poor egg quality is there. Then the hyperprolactinemia means increased level of prolactin hormone in the blood. So this will also, if a female has hyperprolactinemia, that will interfere with the normal ovulation. So she will not be able to ovulate normally. Then other problems in the uterus and fallopian tube, that is any history of surgery, submucosal fibroids, endometriosis, and previous sterilization treatment. So all this can lead to female infertility, and others are some medications, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, for example, aspirin and brufen, and history of chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and any consumption of illegal drugs. This all can lead to female infertility. Next, we will see the categories. In the categories, there are two types of infertility. First one is primary and another one is the secondary infertility. Primary infertility means the couple has never conceived a child, whereas in the secondary infertility, once or twice they have conceived, but after that they are not able to conceive. Inability to conceive a child after one or more pregnancy. That is secondary infertility. Primary and secondary. Then we'll see the diagnosis. So in order to find out the cause of infertility, we need to diagnose it. Until and unless we are not aware about the cause, then the treatment will not be successful. Okay, so it is very important that we have to diagnose the infertility, how, why it is happening. We have to find out, we have to rule out the cause. Okay, so it is very important for it is very important to diagnose the infertility. So the first and foremost thing is we have to collect proper history from the both the partners. We have to collect the general medical history, history of tuberculosis or pelvic inflammatory diseases, sexually transmitted diseases, diabetes mellitus, all that has to be collected. Then surgical history also we need to collect, any surgical history, any genital tract surgery has been performed. Then menstrual history, all the history regarding the menstrual cycle has to be collected, duration, any premenstrual syndrome, okay, what is the normal cycle, day cycle, how the flow is. So all the thing we need to collect. Then the previous obstetric history has to be collected. You have to collect the information regarding the number of pregnancy, the interval between the pregnancy, any complication that happened during the previous pregnancy, any history of premature rupture of membrane, any puerperal sepsis. All this sort of history from the obstetrical history has to be collected. Then the contraceptive practice, we have to collect information regarding that also, because if the female has undergone insertion of IUCD, that can lead to PID, and then this PID can have impact on female infertility. PID means pelvic inflammatory diseases. The sexual problems, we have to ask for the any problems related to the sex, that is dysphoria, that is a painful intercourse, or loss of sexual desire, that is loss of libido. All this thing we need to ask the both the partners. Okay, then the physical examination, general examination has to be conducted as well as the systemic examination. General examination, we have to collect all the general thing, that is we have to calculate the BMI rate. We have to see whether there is any marked reduction in the weight, abnormal distribution of hairs, or underdeveloped secondary sexual characteristics. So especially in PCOD, polycystic ovarian disease, the female, they most of the cases the female experience abnormal distribution of hairs, hirsutism, normal hair growth. Okay, so that from that also we can find out whether there is any ovulation disorders. And systemic examination also has to be performed in order to rule out hypertension, any heart diseases, any kidney disease, or any endocrine pathology. So general examination, systemic examination has to be conducted. Then physical examination, gynecological and speculum examination has to be conducted. So the gynecological examination, it is performed to know whether the hymen opening is adequate, there is any masses or any evidence of vaginal infections, any cervical elongation of the cervix, any cervical tear, or any chronic infection. This we have to find out. Then even the uterine size and position has to be ruled out by gynecological examination. And speculum examination also to be performed. From that, we can find out whether there is any abnormality in the cervical mucal discharge. Okay. Next, we have to, as we said, the ovulation disorders in the ovulation can be a cause of female infertility. So indirectly, we can collect the ovulation disorder. We can find out features of ovulation. We have to find it because in some females during the time of ovulation, they have Mittelschmerz syndrome. That is, small blood spot will be there, or small, and then very abdominal cramps they may feel during the ovulation. It doesn't happen to everyone in some cases. Then regular normal menstrual flows, premenstrual syndrome, and primary dysmenorrhea. So through that we can diagnose the ovulation. And other diagnostic tests are blood examination. Through the blood examination, we have to assess for the hormonal level, especially progesterone level, and even the follicle stimulating hormone. Then imaging studies has to be done. Body temperature has to be checked in the morning to check if whether the ovaries are releasing eggs or not. Then some procedure like hysterosalpingography. Hysterosalpingography, hystero is something related to female uterus, and salpingo, that is salpingus, is related to uterine tube. So in this case, graphically or through the guided, it is X-ray guided study we are doing. We will be injecting, reducing a contrast medium through the cannula, and then if then the X-ray will be taken. So in this picture you can see the X-ray has been taken. So here you can see the dye has crossed the uterine cavity, even it has move on to up to the fimbriae, it has reached, the dye has been reached. But whereas in the in the right fallopian tube, because the tube is not patent, there is some adhesions, or there is, because of some problem, there is some occlusions or obstructions, so the dye is not able to pass to the fallopian tube. So it indicates that there is some problem with the fallopian tube. So we have, in this case, we have identified the cause. Then pelvic ultrasound can be performed, laparoscopy, luteinizing hormone urine test to predict the ovulation. Then thyroid function also has to be, can be done, because thyroid disorders can also lead to female infertility. Okay. Now, in the male cases, semen analysis has to be done. So, in that, we will assess for the concentration, we will assess for the motility, we will check the morphology. So, you know the normal concentration of the sperm. So, the semen volume, it should be 1.5 to 5 ml, and concentration should be more than 20 million sperm per ml. So any abnormalities in this, that can, it shows the chance of infertility. Postcoital test can be done, sperm penetration test, testicular biopsy, immunological test, chromosome study. So these are all included in the semen analysis. Okay. Next, we have to instruct the couples while treating the infertility. We have to provide instruction to the couples. We have to, the first and foremost thing, assurance has to be given. We have to check the basal metabolic, BMI rate has to, body mass index has to be calculated. Alcoholism and smoking habit has to be, they have to quit the habit, and we have to encourage the partners to have intercourse during the mid cycle. Urine luteinizing hormone surge has to be detected, and if the infertility is due to some ovulatory dysfunction, so ovulation induction can be done. Psychotherapy will be useful, and reduction of the weight is one another method. In the drugs aspect, we said that ovulation disorders can lead to infertility. So in order to treat that condition, so if the ovulation is not happening, so there is no chance of pregnancy. Unless there is a matured, healthy egg is not there, or fertilization cannot be happening. So for that, we are stimulating the ovary, we are stimulating the ovulation. So for that, some medications can be given. For example, clomiphene citrate, letrozole, HCG, HMG, FSH, GnRH analogs, gonadotropin releasing hormone, gonadotropin releasing hormone analog. All this can be administered to stimulate the ovulation. Then any hormonal abnormalities can be solved by administering metformin or dexamethasone or bromocriptine. So this bromocriptine, actually, in the case of hyperprolactinemia, in the courses we said that hyperprolactinemia can lead to ovulation disorders, and that can lead to infertility. So in order to treat that, if the prolactin level is more in the female, in order to decrease the prolactin level, this drug can be administered, bromocriptine. Then substitution therapy, if the female partner or any partner, they are having thyroid disorders, then the thyroid drugs can be given, thyroxine. Then if they are having diabetes, then anti-diabetic drugs can be given. Then the surgicals, as we said, the causes like any structural abnormality or any adhesions, any mass, all that can lead to infertility. So we have to, surgical management can also be done. For example, in the PCOD, if it is, that is the cause, then ovarian drilling or laser vaporization can be done. Even the wedge resection of the ovaries, bilateral ovaries, wedge resection can be done. Then ovaries or adrenal tumor can be removed, ovarian or adrenal tumor can be removed. And if the tube is not patent, there is some tubal block, then salpingography and then tubal cannulation has to be done under hysteroscopic guidance. And at the distal end, if there is tubal block, Distal means near to the fimbriae. So fimbrioplasty can be done, neosalpingostomy. If there is fluid collection in the fallopian tube, in this case hydrosalpinx, neosalpingostomy can be done. If there is mid-tubal block, then reversal tubal ligation can be done. The treatments, if there is any infection, then antibiotics. Any adhesion, then adhesion has to be removed. Then hydrotubation can be. Uterovaginal surgery, myomectomy, metroplasty or adhesolysis means we are removing the adhesion. Then enlargement of vaginal introitus, removal of vaginal septum, amputation of the cervix, Gilliam type operation. All this can be done. Then, in the case of unexplained infertility means the infertility, the cause of infertility is we are not able to identify the cause. In that cases, any this sort of treatment can be done, like induction of ovulation, IUI, that is intrauterine insemination, then super ovulation plus intrauterine insemination. Then ART, assisted reproductive technology. We will just say about the super ovulation. Super ovulation is here you can, what we can do with the help of some drugs, like we said that ovulation induction drugs. With the help of that drugs, we can stimulate the ovary to produce follicles, mature the follicles. Here you can say there is no matured follicle, but after the administering the follicle stimulating drugs, after the administration of that, what happens? More than one follicles will be got matured. So then that is super ovulation. We are administering drugs so that more than one follicle can be matured. So along with the superovulation, IUI can be done. Then assisted reproductive technology. That this type of treatment can be done in unexplained infertility, where in which in the cases where we are not able to find out the causes. Okay. Now counseling. The counseling has a major role in the infertility because infertility is a stressful situation for both the partners, even for the family. So it is very important to take the to counsel the partners as well as the family. So informed consent has to be taken. We have to explain the coping strategies to the couples. Then decision making has to be facilitated. We have to prepare the person for the procedure, and we have to help them to achieve a better life. The genetic counseling has to be provided. Then in vitro fertilization, that IVF, we will be dealing about that in later slides. So in the IVF, group discussion has to be done by the staff, and in the third party reproduction, whereas both the partners uh, they cannot be able to reproduce, so we are inviting a third party for the reproduction. In that cases also the group discussion is needed. Therapeutic counseling, crisis counseling, and assessment and follow-up has got a major role in the infertility. Then the advantages is that why it is needed. Emotional, we will be able to deal with emotional stress. Extra support can be given to the partners, and we can help the partners to overcome the situation and to opt for the better treatment modality, and explain about the infertility management and the specific treatment. And as a fertility nurse, the nurse, as a nurse, they have to receive the patient and the family, so that we will be able to make them accessible and comfortable. We have to collect the proper information about every aspect, as we have said in the history collection. All that sort of history has to be collected. We have to gain support from all the family members. Then physical examination has to be performed. All the information has to be collected. Psychological support is very much necessary. We have to collect other information like test report and documents has to be collected, and establish a plan of care with the family, and we have to coordinate the care with the other healthcare team members also. The privacy and what all the information have collected, we have to maintain privacy and confidentiality, and we can perform the inseminations and embryo transfer. We have to ensure the follow-up and supporting services to individual and family during counseling. Now next we are going to deal about the assisted reproductive technology, that is ART. Okay. Assisted reproductive technology is used to treat infertility. As we said, as we are discussing the infertility, now this topic has come, that is assisted reproductive technology. Here we'll be dealing with, where we are in this assisted reproductive technology. For this treatment, both the women's egg and man's sperms are handled. Okay, we are handling with both the gametes, female gamete as well as the male gamete. So here you can see the pic of, it is a newspaper cutting of Louis, who is the world first test tube arrival. It's a super baby. Means his name is Louis. It's the first test tube baby. Okay. Now there are various types of assisted reproductive technology. IVF, that is in vitro fertilization. IUI, that is intrauterine insemination. Then intrafallopian transfer. Then ICSI, that is intracytoplasmic sperm injection. So we will see each one of them in detail. The first one is intrauterine insemination. So it is a baseline, first line management. And this can be used in a cases such as there is some abnormality with the cervical mucus. There is no favorable cervical mucus for the fertilization. So then in that cases, intrauterine insemination can be performed. And if there is any male factors, infertility factors are there like low sperm count or premature ejaculation, all these cases, IUI can be performed. But the most important thing what we are supposed to confirm before this IUI is, we have to confirm whether whether the female partner tube is patent or not. Fallopian tube has to be patent for this IUI. So before doing this procedure, that has to be assured whether the tube is patent or not. So that is IUI. So here it is useful. Even we can, as we said in the earlier slides, that in unexplained infertility also this IUI can be performed. So if we want the increased chance of success of infertility, then along with this procedure, we have to confirm whether we have to monitor the ovulation. Even in some cases, ovulation can be induced. Then the sperm which we are injecting into the uterine cavity, that has to be prepared so that the sperm should be healthy. Okay, normal and healthy sperm has to be injected into the uterine cavity. These 3 points we have to consider in order to increase the chance of success of the IUI. Okay, so here you can see the sperm is collected from the male partner, so it is being treated, and healthy sperm has been collected. So that is introduced into the uterine cavity. So that is, you can see that sperm, it is healthy, it is very motile, so it has reached to the fallopian tube. And here, through the ovulation induction, in some cases ovulation induction can be done so the follicles will be prepared. In some cases it is not necessary. During the around the ovulation time only this can be performed. Okay, next is the in vitro fertilization or embryo transfer. So it is a lab. In vitro fertilization means fertilization is done or fertilization is happening in the lab environment. It is not happening inside the body. This happening outside the body, that is in that is lab environment, that is known as in vitro fertilization. So here it is done in the case where if there is any uterine tube occlusion, the tube is not patent, there is endometriosis or cervical mucus problems, whether the male factors are the main problem. In all these cases, it can be done. IVF, in vitro fertilization, or ET, that is embryo transfer, can be done. So the procedure is, first, as we said, the ovaries has to be stimulated. Okay, then the ovums which are matured, that is egg, female egg, that will be retrieved from, that will be surgically taken from the ovaries, from the female partner. The stimulated, the matured ovaries will be collected surgically. Okay, and the same time the sperm will also be collected from the male partner. Okay, now so both now the sperm as well as the female egg is now outside the body of both the partners. So now it will be brought into the lab environment, and in the petri dish, this fertilization will be happening. Okay. Now, after the fertilization, as we know, the fertilized egg, it will be a cell division will happen, and the embryo will be formed, and after that, the embryo will be transferred to the female partner. Okay, so if there is excess embryo, then that can be freezed so that it can be used further. Okay, if it is needed, it can be used further. So that is cryoprecipitation has been done. So the embryo will be transferred into the uterine cavity of the mother, female partner, and then after the 14 days, after the 14 day, day of embryo transfer, the pregnancy test will be confirmed. Okay, so that is done in IVF. That is a process. So here, next is intracytoplasmic sperm injection. Intracytoplasmic sperm injection, that is ICSI. Okay, here it is very highly specialized treatment. Here what we are doing, in the picture you can see there is a ovum, matured ovum. So through the micropipette, already the sperm has been collected, healthy sperm has been taken into the micropipette, and we are injecting the sperm directly into the cytoplasm. This is cytoplasm of the egg. We are directly inserting the sperm into the cytoplasm of the female egg. That is intracytoplasmic sperm. We are directly inserting or introducing the sperm into the cytoplasm of the female. Understood? That is the intracytoplasmic sperm injection. So in azoospermic, that is absent sperm. So in some cases, there is in the semen analysis we found that there is no sperm. So what we have to do, surgically we will incise the epididymis of the male, and then from that directly the sperm will be collected. Surgically from the epididymis the sperm will be collected, and that sperm will be injected into the cytoplasm of the female egg. Okay, that is ICSI. Next, here we can see the procedure. So the ovarian stimulation will be done. Okay, so that we have to collect the ovums. So then egg will be retrieved. Even at the same time, the sperm will be collected. Sperm semen is collected, and from that healthy sperm has been taken, and that sperm will be inserted into the egg, and then embryo will be formed and embryo will be transferred. That is ICSI procedure. Okay, the same thing is done here. The same thing is explained. Test and diagnosis, ovulation, ovary stimulation, egg retrieval, sperm retrieval, fertilization, and then embryo transfer. Okay. Next, we are dealing about the other method, that is gift or ZIFT. Gift is gamete intrafallopian transfer. ZIFT is zygote intrafallopian transfer. In gift, we are transferring the gametes, male as well as female gamete will be transferred to the fallopian tube. Okay, we are directly transferring both the gametes together to the fallopian tube. In zygote, the zygote will be, after the fertilization, the zygote will be transferred to the fallopian tube. So these are laparoscopically this technique is done, but it's nowadays it is not recommended that much because the success rate is less. Okay, so here you can see the sperm is collected from the male partner, even from the female the egg is collected, and then what we are doing, laparoscopically we are inserting it into the, we are introducing that to the fallopian. Okay, that is gift and sift. Then another one is third party assisted ART. So when couples is not able to achieve the pregnancy even after the infertility treatment, whatever we have discussed, IUI has been done, C has been done, or IVF has been done, still they are not able to conceive, then we can choose for this option, that is third party assisted ART. Apart from the partners, another person is also involved, that is third party is involved. Here you can see the egg donation, the female, not the female partner, another female is donating egg, she is donating the egg. Then here you can see the male partner is donating the sperm. Here you can see another two partners, another two persons, they are donating their embryo. Then here you can see another person is, the embryo will be transferred into the another person, gestational surrogacy. It is entirely much different from the other one. So this is third party assisted reproductive technology. The sperm donation, you can see that the sperm can be donated, and in the case where if the male partner is not in the semen, there is less number of sperm, or the main partner is having some genetic diseases, in all that cases, the couples can donate the sperm. Then donated sperm can be used, and which whatever sperm has collected, it can be introduced through the IUI or IVF can be done. Then the egg donation. So here, as we said, the in the earlier we said that ovulation induction will be done, and more than one follicles will be prepared. Okay, and then laparoscopically, this matured ovum will be the egg will be collected. That is egg donation. Okay. So, donated egg then can be fertilized by the sperm from the woman's partner and resulting. So, here the problem is with the female partner. So, female is collecting the egg from another female, and the sperm will be used of her husband itself. Okay, so that is egg donation. Then the surrogacy is, it is a legal arrangement we are making. Here the couple to be over the age of 18. It is very necessary, and they should be married to each other, and the child genetically related to at least one of them. Even any from the both partners, any one of the persons has to be genetically related with the baby. Okay, the surrogate mother, she acts as a host because embryo is placed in her uterus. So that is a surrogacy. Okay, so today we have discussed about the infertility. That is the definition of infertility. That even after uh, one or more than 1 year of unprotected regular sexual intercourse, they are not able to conceive. Then it is infertility. Then types primary and secondary infertility is there. Then risk factors for both male and female risk factors. Then the causes we have discussed, even for the even both of them, male and female causes we have found out. Then diagnosis, history collection, what are the diagnosis methods can be done, what are the procedure like hysterosalpingography, laparoscopy, as ultrasonography, for this can be performed. Then the management, medical management, surgical management, okay, then assisted reproductive technology, IUI, intrauterine insemination, IVF, in vitro fertilization, then EC, SIFT, and GIF. All this we have discussed. Then even we have discussed about the third party reproduction. Okay, then counseling. So counseling is very much important in the infertility. As a nurse, we should be able to we should be able to tackle this emotional stressful situation. We should be able to do that. Okay, we should counsel both the partners so that we need the both of them the cooperation of both the partners. So I think you have understood regarding this. If you have any doubts, please let me know. So I will be ready to explain in any sort of doubts regarding this topic. Okay, thank you.